Football. How about football?
Yeah. Where you want to start? You want to start with Maccagnan and the Jets?
I think it's the most timely.
Yeah. I think so, too.
Your first reaction?
Was not surprised. I had heard.
We talked about it the last couple of weeks.
Right. We talked about it a couple of weeks before the draft. I mean, to the point, and I know Mike Florio was kind of updated with some of the, some of this stuff too, before that. But before the draft, or maybe the first day of the draft, I had heard from some people around the NFL that it was going to happen, and he was going to be fired this weekend. So then, of course, I don't know if the Jets kind of bowed to public pressure at the time, or maybe they just said, you know what, we'll wait a little bit here. Just, I don't know why, to not take away maybe attention from the guys that were actually drafted and making such a rash decision. But, yeah, they tried to pick a time where it's dead in the offseason, and I think they thought this was going to, go by without less media attention, and it's really going to get more media attention because there's not much more to talk about in the NFL.
Right, exactly. And I think right away it's like, this is weird timing. The timing is strange. It made me wonder right away, Chris, what was the relationship, or I guess what was the feeling from Mike Maccagnan about Adam Gase when they hired him? Was he not on board then?
Right.
Did it get off to the wrong start at that point? Or was he super excited about it and something about the way these two view evaluation and spending the money they have allotted to them? Did something go wrong afterward, or was it right away it was doomed?
Well, I think there was issues here before Gase even got on. From things I know behind the scenes, I don't think.
You don't think Mike wanted him?
I don't think Jets brass was necessarily sold that Mike Maccagnan was the future GM even before they hired.
And that's
Adam
understandable
Gase.
based off the record and the roster.
Exactly, and we'll get into some of that stuff about with the moves Mike Maccagnan made that brought us to this point and all of that. But I don't know the dynamics of that relationship with Gase and Maccagnan. We've heard some rumors. We've heard them both talk and try to kind of squash the rumors, all of that. Now, I do know this. The one thing I was told is that the Jets originally, it was Matt Rule's job, the head coach of Baylor. He was going to be the head coach. Gase was going to be the offensive coordinator. Greg Williams was going to be the defensive coordinator. Somehow, some way, whatever, it didn't work out with Matt Rule. I don't know the whole specifics of that story, but then Adam Gase was given the job. So maybe Gase is not Maccagnan's guy. I don't know. Either way, they did not see eye to eye on how they were building the team, or maybe the future of the team and how it should be built from here on out.
Right.
Now, to get into the first thing was where I hear this is the first thing. Why would you let this guy, handle free agency if you're going to fire him or whatever else? All right,
maybe they didn't know they were going to fire him.
Maybe they weren't sure at that point. Okay, one. Two, it doesn't mean Mike Maccagnan was just like picking players whoever he wanted. I mean, to me, guys like Jamison Crowder, Kelechi Osemele, I would think that Adam Gase, signed off. Oh, well, you get me a slot receiver. I like this one. Let's sign Jamison Crowder or whoever it may be. So I would think there was major dialogue there between Gase and Maccagnan as far as the vision or what they expected in free agency to begin with. Very hard to make a change at that time of the year with all that money they had available to spend, and it's going to be a big free agency for your football team. So the Jets opted to go fire the head coach, and let's let the personnel department stay intact for a big free agency and draft year for us. And they make the move now. This is not weird timing. This is the right timing. This is the start of the new calendar year for front office in the NFL. The draft is over. Now starts the preparation for the 2020 free agency and draft period. Right. So it's really the proper time to make this type of change.
I kind of came around to that too. Like I said a moment ago, my initial thought was, well, this is strange timing, and it's doubly strange because they just hired this head coach. Doesn't the GM want it to work? Isn't he really trying extra hard to make it happen? But then I thought more about it, and maybe it was fine to start, but the only way it's ever going to work in any one of the 32 buildings between a GM and a head coach is if they're on the same page with how you build a team, how you view a player, how you evaluate who matters a lot, who's worth this. And you can't really know that in the interview process, and they had no previous working history. So as they go along, and we know who has more power here, more juice in the building because he's new, Adam Gase, and because Maccagnan didn't have a lot of success building the roster or winning. So Adam has more pull. As they go along, maybe it's like, you know what? Every step of the way, we don't really see things the same. I don't think long-term this is going to work. You don't know that in January.
Right.
By the time you get through free agency and the draft, you do know that, so why wait? So in that way,
yeah, right.
I have no problem with them pulling the plug at what a lot of people see as a strange time to do so.
Yeah, no, I think if people went back and looked at like GM firings and hirings, there's more have gone on during this time of the year, you know, even June and July, than I think people would realize.
Right.
I think it's gone on a little more than, I think, you know, just it's out of nowhere and it catches us off guard. But I don't think this is that crazy from that standpoint. And also, hey, it's justifiable that the Jets wanted to move on from Maccagnan. It really is. You mentioned some of the moves, the roster moves, the draft, you know, the inability to really build a team with a complete roster, you know, offensive line issues, never getting a pass rusher, you know, busted draft picks, you know, free agents that were overpaid like Le'Veon Bell and Tremaine Johnson. I mean, that's one of the big talking points. That's where Adam Gase and Maccagnan went off the rails a little bit. You know, again, I'll say this, and I know this for a fact. There was no market for Le'Veon Bell. The Jets were the only team talking to him. And then the agent called around the NFL and started telling teams, you can have Le'Veon Bell for this amount per year.
Yeah.
$8 million. And all of a sudden teams went, whoa, $8 million a year? Hold up, we'll call you back.
Yeah.
Maybe we can work something out. So they created a market that way. And then the Jets, of course, overpaid and paid him $12 million a year, where I don't think anybody was offering him more than $8 million a year. So that became an issue. Then also, to that point, too, it doesn't mean Adam Gase didn't want Le'Veon Bell.
Right.
That's the other fight
Just
people are starting
money,
to assume here. No, I'm sure he's like, damn, this is awesome. I got Le'Veon Bell. But yes, he was probably going, we're overpaying.
Yeah.
I have other friends in the league that I'm talking to that I know where the money is at.
Yeah.
And we're off here. And he's going, damn, I could have got $4 million extra dollars, so maybe we get another free agent or something else.
But now he has him.
Yes.
And I'm sure he's excited about the ways he can use him in the offense.
Definitely.
Spinning it forward, the narrative has been created, whether it's a true one or not, it's out there. Le'Veon Bell's reading the same things that we're reading. Do you think Adam Gase has to deal with it one-on-one with his running back now?
Well, yes. At some point, I think that would be the smart move. And Gase, you know, in my knowledge, I played on the Denver Broncos when Gase was the wide receiver coach, so I have a little history with him. And, you know, when I see him at, you know, the owners' meeting in the Combine, we talk. We keep it light and easy. But Gase, as I think anybody can tell in press conferences, is that he is not a bullshitter.
Right.
This is what it is, and I'm going to say it, and you might not like it, but this is what it is. He's not a politician that way. It's what I respect about Adam Gase. He's tough. His teams play tough. He made some hard-line decisions in Miami with Jarvis Landry and Ndamukong Suh, where he didn't want to overpay them.
Right.
I think he was kind of justified in those decisions as well. Nobody wanted to pay Jarvis Landry big money, except the Browns, who were trying to change their culture. Hey, Ndamukong Suh, here we are 2 years away now. Nobody signed him yet. So maybe he wasn't worth what he was trying to ask for. So they don't look so bad in retribution. You know, and also, again, with the Maccagnan thing, you know, just to talk a little bit more about that, some of the moves that have been made. You know, we talked about some of the players that were overpaid. You know, letting a guy like Damon Snacks Harrison out the door, but yet keeping Muhammad Wilkerson. I think you can look at that. An ability to get a marquee receiver in the draft. The best receiver they've gotten in the draft was an undrafted free agent in Robbie Anderson. You have that. Christian Hackenberg is a second-round pick. That's one of the worst fucking picks in the history of football. I'm just telling you. I wouldn't have drafted Christian Hackenberg. He was not draft eligible.
They took him in the second.
They took him in the second.
And Bryce Petty in the...
Traded up in the fourth, I believe, to get him. So you go between that, Bryce Petty, Darren Lee. You know, we talked about Snacks Harrison, Tremaine Johnson, all of those things. Even, hey, I'll even go into, I really think the start of it was the bowing down to Ryan Fitzpatrick after they had the 1 year of Fitzmagic. Hey, I know it looked good and Fitzmagic was good, but they never found a way to kind of replace or improve the team the next year off of that. So I just think without the great team building, not great middle of the draft contributions from the guys he drafted, and not necessarily knock it out of the park free agents. I think all that led to Jets fans and Jets organization frustration.
And not only not winning, I mean, they weren't even close to having a good team a lot of his years. So it's understandable why he was on thin ice. And if you're not getting along or not seeing eye to eye, and we don't know the specifics, but clearly it wasn't going to work. Why not just, you know, pull it right now and move on? And as you mentioned just a few moments ago, now is the time in the NFL calendar where all of the personnel directors, the GMs, there's no free time in the NFL, but the free agency, the draft time is over.
Right.
If there is a downtime for them, and they're all busy, but it's now.
It is now.
Now's when you're going
Yes.
to have the attention of everybody. Now is when they've put last year behind them, and they have time to think about if they're contacted. You know what? Maybe that would be a good move for me. So the more I've thought about it, the more I've thought this is pretty good timing.
It is pretty good timing. And if you're the Jets and you want the Adam Gase hire to work, you want to get a guy in there that, Adam Gase respects and sees eye to eye on.
It's the only way it's going to work.
It's the only way it's going to work. To what you said before, a little bit about different teams in football. The successful teams have a cohesive, good working relationship between the GM and the coach, almost across the board. And I can show you the dysfunctional teams and go, yeah, they're not good. And there's a reason there, you know. But you just look at, like, Kansas City, Beach and Andy Reid. Perfection.
Yeah.
New England, Caserio and Belichick, or Belichick and Caserio, because he kind of has the GM role too. Hey, it's working pretty damn good. New Orleans Saints, even with Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis, pretty good relationship seems at least at a base level. And of course, Les Snead and Sean McVay has been phenomenal.
Right.
So there's your final four right there, and you go, okay, all the years with the Ravens and Harbaugh and Ozzie Newsome. I mean, you can go along down the lines. The Pittsburgh Steelers, as much as we want to say they're a mess, oh my gosh.
They're a threat to win double digits every single season.
Right.
And going to the AFC North, I think that's the best example out there the last 10 years. You look at the consistency at GM, head coach that we saw the last decade with Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin, Ozzie Newsome, John Harbaugh. You even go to Cincinnati when they were competitive for all those years. Different kind of structure in the front office, but Marvin Lewis was there the entire time. The one team in that division that was all over the place was the one that didn't have the continuity between GM and head coach, and that's Cleveland.
And it seems like now they finally got the continuity.
Right? Exactly.
And look at us here. We're going, we think they're a playoff team this year, and they got the right quarterback. And all of a sudden we go, look, it seems like everybody's on the same page. So, yeah, I'm with you. And the last thing before we get off the Adam Gase thing, too, because this is another thing I hear a lot. I'm a little sick of everybody in the New York area piling on the Jets and the dysfunction thing and all of that. And how could you give Adam Gase the power of the roster? Did you see what happened in Miami? Listen, I understand Miami wasn't perfect. I also think Miami was a little bit better than people give Adam Gase credit for. Went to the playoffs, year two. Ryan Tannehill got hurt in training camp and tore his knee. They had the hurricane down there and the flooding where they had to go out to L.A. They didn't get a bye week. Remember, they didn't get to play their opening game of the season against the Buccaneers.
That's right.
They had to play 16 games straight. Lawrence Timmons went AWOL right before the first game. They had a number of issues that year and still stayed competitive. Last year stayed competitive with some issues as well and some unfortunate injuries. But the big thing is people talk about his roster moves, and I want to go, man, I know it wasn't perfect in Miami, but Miami has a lot of issues. Everybody in the NFL knows that. Mike Florio talked about it a little today on PFT when we were on. But there's too many cooks in the kitchen in Miami, and ownership gets involved too much and speaks their 2 cents, even though they're not around on a daily basis and certainly not watching film on players. But yet all of a sudden they're experts all of a sudden, and that's typical of billionaires, but that's also typical of dysfunctional organizations. And I think there's a little more dysfunction in Miami than maybe people give it credit for.
And the obvious problem as well, but by that point when he got there, Ryan Tannehill, he was going to be just an okay quarterback, not a great quarterback, and he doesn't have that problem yet with the Jets. Their young quarterback still there's reason to believe he can be very, very good, and I think 100%. That ship had sailed a little bit in Miami.
Yeah, I agreed. It had, and really, honestly, I would praise Adam Gase for what he did with Ryan Tannehill. If you go back and look at Ryan Tannehill's record and stats, his stats and his record are going to say he's towards like the top 10 in football in the NFL. And I know he's not that. He did. He had some good numbers. And when they went through a lot of losing streaks, it was when he was hurt and not playing.
Right.
I think he got the most out of Tannehill, who is at best a low-level starter, backup, great backup quarterback, like he's going to be doing in Tennessee.
I don't think he failed.
No.
He was fine.
He was fine. Exactly right. And I think Gase did a great job of really making the most out of him. Hey, I'll throw Gase in there too. What he did with Jay Cutler in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Jay Cutler's last year
What he did
there.
with Peyton when Peyton was at the end of his career as well.
Exactly right. Peyton wasn't exactly throwing lasers around the field. You're right. He made the most out of Peyton, made life easy, and orchestrated an offense that made sense for Peyton at that point of his career. So, yeah, I'm a little bit more of a believer in Adam Gase than maybe the rest of the world.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.